My name is Benjamin Mitchell, and I'm 52 years old. For the past 15 years, I've been running Mitchell CyberGuard Solutions, the company my father built from nothing here in Denver, Colorado. We specialize in cybersecurity for major corporations across the Rocky Mountain region. Our reputation in the tech community is unshakable. My analytical mind and ability to see patterns before others have always been my greatest strengths in both business and life. I thought I had everything figured out with my wife, Rebecca. We'd been married for 14 years, and she seemed to embrace our family's mission and values. Our kids, Alexander, 16, and Sophia, 14, were everything to me. Or at least I believed they were everything to both of us. My father had been fighting pancreatic cancer for 10 months. The oncologist at University of Colorado Hospital had been clear about the timeline. Dad had always treated Rebecca like his own daughter, walking her down the aisle when her father couldn't make it from Boston. I could see how much his approval meant to her throughout our marriage. That's why what happened at his funeral hit me like a sledgehammer. If you enjoy stories of calculated revenge and shocking betrayals, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. The memorial service was held at Riverside Memorial Park on a cold November morning. Half of Denver's tech community showed up to pay their respects. Dad had mentored dozens of cybersecurity professionals throughout Colorado. Our corporate clients sent representatives from as far as Silicon Valley and Austin. I was still standing beside the grave, watching them lower my father's casket, when Rebecca approached me with a manila envelope in her hands. Her timing couldn't have been worse, but looking back, I think that was exactly her intention. "Ben," she said, her voice surprisingly steady for someone at a funeral, "I need you to sign these documents." I opened the envelope and felt my blood freeze. Divorce papers. Right there with cemetery dirt still on my dress shoes from my father's graveside. "Are you serious right now?" I asked, keeping my voice low since people were still offering condolences nearby. "The timing isn't perfect, but this needed to happen," she replied. "According to your father's will, the family assets transfer to me as the surviving daughter-in-law. My attorney says the language is ironclad." Before I could process what she was really saying, Alexander and Sophia walked up behind her. My own children looked at me with expressions I'd never seen before. Cold, almost disgusted. "Dad, we've made our decision," Alexander announced, loud enough for several family friends to hear. "We're changing our last name to Harper. Vincent has offered us opportunities you never could." Sophia nodded in agreement. "We want to live with Mom and Vincent. He understands us better than you ever did." Vincent Harper, my business partner of 6 years, the man I'd trusted with access to our most sensitive client data and financial systems. Standing there in my black suit, surrounded by mourners, I felt something inside me shift. Not anger. Anger is hot and impulsive. This was something colder, more systematic. The same methodical thinking that had built our cybersecurity empire was now turning its full attention to this betrayal. What Rebecca didn't know was that I'd been tracking this betrayal for months. When you run a cybersecurity company, you develop certain instincts about deception and unusual patterns. And Rebecca's behavior had been setting off every alarm bell I had since early spring. It started with small things. She'd become protective of her phone, angling the screen away when texting. She started working late at her marketing firm more frequently. But when I called her office, her assistant would say she'd left hours earlier. There were unexplained charges on our joint credit card. Dinners at the Capitol Grill downtown when she claimed to be home with a headache. A $200 charge that she explained as a client dinner that got moved to my personal card by mistake. But the real red flag was Vincent. He'd joined our company 4 years ago when we expanded into enterprise consulting. Vincent was smooth, charismatic, and had an MBA from Wharton. He specialized in business development and had legitimate skills. But over the past 8 months, he'd been asking questions about our financial structure that went way beyond his authorization level. "Hey, Ben," he'd casually mentioned during quarterly reviews. "I've been thinking about the company's asset allocation. How much of our liquid capital is tied up in that Denver real estate portfolio your dad assembled?" Or he'd stop by my office and say, "Your father was brilliant with those early tech investments. I bet the family trust is worth more than the operating business now, right?" At the time, I thought he was just making conversation. Now I understood he was conducting reconnaissance. The breakthrough came in August when our IT department flagged unusual access patterns in our network. Someone had been accessing client files and financial records outside normal business hours. The digital forensics were crystal clear. It was Vincent's login credentials, but the access times coincided with evenings when he should have been at home with his family. That's when I started my own quiet investigation. I hired a private investigator named Thomas Kane, a former FBI agent who specialized in corporate espionage cases. Within 3 weeks, Kane had photographic evidence of Rebecca and Vincent meeting at the Brown Palace Hotel in downtown Denver. Not once, but 12 times over 4 months. But the real bombshell came when Kane discovered they'd been meeting with a probate attorney named Amanda Richardson. She had a reputation for finding creative interpretations of inheritance law, particularly in cases involving complex business structures and family trusts. I realized they weren't just having an affair. They were planning a complete takeover. My father's will did include provisions that seemed to benefit Rebecca, but they were contingent on specific circumstances that I knew hadn't been met. However, if they could manipulate the legal interpretation and gain control of both my personal assets and my shares in the company, they could effectively force me out of my own business. The manipulation of Alexander and Sophia was perhaps the most cruel part. Vincent had been positioning himself as the cool, understanding father figure. He'd take them shopping with his American Express Black Card, promising them cars when they turned 18. A Mustang GT for Alexander, a Range Rover Evoque for Sophia. He painted a picture of private schools, unlimited college funds, and European vacations. "Your dad's too conservative with money," I overheard him telling Sophia during a family barbecue in September. "When I have more influence over the family finances, you'll see what real opportunities look like." I documented everything. Every suspicious meeting, every financial irregularity, every conversation I could safely record. I consulted with my own attorney, Catherine Wells, who specialized in corporate law and had handled several high-profile fraud cases in Colorado. "Ben," Catherine told me during a confidential meeting in October, "if they're planning what you think they're planning, they're going to have to commit several federal crimes to pull it off. Wire fraud, embezzlement, possibly even racketeering if they're coordinating this across state lines." But I couldn't act yet. My father was deteriorating rapidly, and any family scandal would have destroyed him emotionally in his final weeks. Dad loved Rebecca genuinely. He'd given her away at our wedding, told everyone she was the daughter he never had. So I waited, I watched. And I prepared. I quietly restructured my personal assets, moving $850,000 into accounts that Rebecca couldn't access. I documented every irregularity in Vincent's behavior and preserved digital evidence of their conspiracy. Most importantly, I set up monitoring systems that would track any unauthorized attempts to access or transfer company funds. The hardest part was acting normal around my own family. Sitting at dinner, listening to my children talk about their future plans with Vincent, knowing they'd been poisoned against me. Watching Rebecca play the devoted wife while she was planning to rob me blind. But patience is a virtue in cybersecurity. The best hackers always reveal themselves when they think they're safe. I just had to wait for Vincent and Rebecca to make their move. The funeral was on Thursday. By Monday morning, Vincent and Rebecca had made their first critical mistake. I was sitting in my office at 7:30 a.m., reviewing our quarterly security reports, when our CFO, Jennifer Brooks, knocked on my door with a concerned expression. "Ben, we have a problem," she said, closing the door behind her. "Someone initiated a wire transfer authorization over the weekend for $1.9 million from our operating account to an offshore consulting firm I've never heard of." "Show me," I said, though I already knew what I'd find. The transfer request bore Vincent's digital signature and was dated for the previous Saturday, 2 days after my father's funeral. The receiving company was listed as Bermuda Strategic LLC, registered in Hamilton. "Jennifer, I need you to freeze all external transfers immediately and call our bank," I instructed. "Tell them we're conducting an internal audit and need a 48-hour hold on any transactions over $75,000. "Should I notify Vincent about the freeze?" she asked. "Not yet. Let's see how he reacts when he discovers it on his own." I didn't have to wait long. Vincent stormed into my office at 10:45 that morning, his usual composed demeanor completely gone. "Ben, what the hell is going on with our banking systems?" he demanded. "I have a time-sensitive consulting contract that needs to be funded today, and the bank is giving me some runaround about account freezes." "I'm not sure what you mean, Vincent," I replied calmly. "What kind of consulting contract requires a $1.9 million transfer to Bermuda on a weekend?" His face went pale. He realized I knew. "It's a legitimate business expense for the Morrison Industries account," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We discussed expanding our southeastern operations." "Did we? I don't recall that conversation." "And Morrison Industries is based in Atlanta. Why would they need Bermuda consulting services?" Vincent left my office without another word. That afternoon, I called Catherine Wells and told her it was time to move. By Wednesday, she had filed preliminary injunctions freezing all joint assets pending a forensic accounting investigation. More importantly, she'd contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division in Denver. The beautiful thing about financial fraud is that it always leaves a digital trail. And when you're married to someone who runs a cybersecurity company, that trail becomes very easy to follow. The forensic accountants discovered that Vincent and Rebecca had been systematically stealing from our business for months. They'd created fake consulting contracts, inflated vendor invoices, and even set up phantom employees to collect paychecks. The total amount exceeded $1.3 million, which elevated their crimes to federal felony territory. But the most damning evidence came from their own communications. Remember those company phones we provided? Everything was backed up to our secure servers. Every text message, every email, every phone call between Rebecca and Vincent was preserved in perfect digital clarity. The transcripts were devastating. Rebecca discussing how she'd played the grieving daughter-in-law perfectly to gain my father's trust. Vincent bragging about how easy it was to manipulate the old man's guilt about his son's long work hours. They even joked about my children, calling them useful idiots who would provide emotional leverage during the divorce proceedings. When Alexander and Sophia found out their mother and her boyfriend had referred to them that way, their attitude changed dramatically. Sophia came to me crying one evening in December. "Dad, I found Mom's laptop open and saw some of the police reports," she sobbed. "Is it true what they're saying about her and Vincent stealing from the company?" "I'm afraid it is, sweetheart," I replied, pulling her into a hug. "But that's not your fault. You were manipulated by people you trusted." Alexander was harder to reach. But when the FBI arrested Vincent at our office in front of several employees, the reality finally hit him. His hero worship of Vincent crumbled when he saw him in handcuffs on the Denver News. The Denver Business Journal ran a front-page story, "Mitchell CyberGuard executives charged in $1.3 million embezzlement scheme." The article detailed how a trusted business partner and the company founder's daughter-in-law had systematically defrauded the family business while the patriarch was dying of cancer. Our clients, rather than abandoning us, rallied around the company. They saw the story as proof of our security expertise. After all, we'd caught the criminals using our own systems. Several new contracts came in within weeks of the arrests. Rebecca's assets were frozen, including the house she'd assumed would be hers through the inheritance manipulation. She had to move in with her sister in Aurora and take a job at a call center to pay for her legal defense. Vincent lost his Wharton MBA credentials when the fraud conviction went on his record. No reputable company in the tech industry would hire him. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Grand Junction. The probate court ruled that Rebecca's actions constituted financial elder abuse against my father, which automatically disqualified her from receiving any inheritance benefits. The family trust remained exactly as my father had intended, protecting the business and providing for his grandchildren's education. But perhaps the most satisfying moment came 8 months later when both Rebecca and Vincent were sentenced at the Federal District Court in Denver. Judge Patricia Martinez sentenced Vincent to 5 years in federal prison and ordered him to pay $1.4 million in restitution. Rebecca received 3.5 years and was ordered to pay an additional $650,000 in damages for her role in the conspiracy. The federal prosecutor called it one of the most callous cases of financial elder abuse she'd seen in 15 years on the bench. I sat in the gallery and watched as they were led away in shackles. I felt no satisfaction, no sense of revenge fulfilled. Just a quiet acknowledgement that justice had run its natural course. The most profound change came in my relationship with Alexander and Sophia. The truth about their mother's manipulation had shattered their worldview, but it also opened the door for honest conversations we'd never had before. "Dad, how did you stay so calm through all of this?" Alexander asked me one evening as we worked together in my home office, reviewing his college applications. He'd decided to study computer science at University of Colorado, wanting to eventually join the family business. "Son, when someone betrays your trust, you have 2 choices," I explained. "You can react emotionally and make mistakes, or you can think strategically and let their own actions destroy them. People who lie and steal always reveal their true nature eventually." Sophia, now a junior in high school, had become interested in business law. After watching the trial proceedings, she'd spend hours asking me questions about corporate governance and legal ethics. "Were you scared Mom would actually succeed?" she wondered. "Scared? No. Disappointed? Absolutely. But your grandfather taught me something important about business and life. Always keep detailed records and never act out of anger." Those lessons served me well. The company not only survived but thrived. Our reputation for catching internal threats made us the go-to cybersecurity firm for companies concerned about insider fraud. We landed contracts with Ball Aerospace, DaVita, and several major banks throughout the Rocky Mountain region. Revenue increased by 45% in the year following the scandal. I promoted Jennifer Brooks to Chief Operating Officer and hired 3 additional forensic accountants. We developed new internal security protocols that became industry standards. The Harvard Business Review even published a case study about our insider threat detection methodology. 4 years later, I received a letter from Rebecca while she was serving her sentence at FCI Waseca in Minnesota. She claimed to be reformed, attending Bible study classes, and wanted to make amends. She asked if we could arrange supervised visits with the children. I showed the letter to Alexander and Sophia, now both in college. Their response was immediate and unanimous. "Dad, some bridges can't be rebuilt," Sophia said firmly. "She made her choices and we've made ours." Alexander nodded. "We have a family business to run together. That's our future, not dwelling on her mistakes." I was proud of their maturity and wisdom. Vincent wrote several letters too, mostly trying to blame his actions on financial pressure and claiming he never meant to hurt the family. I threw them away without reading past the first paragraph. Some people never accept responsibility for their choices. Today, Mitchell CyberGuard Solutions employs over 230 people and has offices in Denver, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, and Austin. Alexander graduated summa cum laude from University of Colorado and now heads our threat analysis division. Sophia finished her business degree at Colorado State and runs our legal compliance department. We've created a scholarship fund in my father's name for students studying cybersecurity and business ethics. It's awarded annually to young people who demonstrate both technical skill and moral character. The combination Dad always said was essential for lasting success. Last month, we celebrated the company's 25th anniversary with a reception at the Denver Art Museum. Clients, employees, and industry colleagues gathered to honor my father's legacy and the business he built with integrity and hard work. As I stood at the podium, looking out at the faces of people who trusted us with their most sensitive data and financial security, I realized something important. The betrayal that began at my father's funeral had ultimately strengthened everything he'd worked to build. Rebecca and Vincent thought they could steal our legacy through deception and manipulation. Instead, their actions proved that legitimate success comes from patience, preparation, and principled decision-making. My father always said that character isn't built during good times. It's revealed during the worst times. The worst betrayal of my life became the foundation for the best years of my family's business. Some people might call what happened revenge, but I prefer to think of it as accountability. When you run a company built on trust and security, you learn that the truth always surfaces eventually. You just have to be patient enough to let it happen naturally. Today, when young entrepreneurs ask me for business advice, I always tell them the same thing my father told me. Keep meticulous records, trust but verify, and never let emotions override good judgment. Those principles will protect you from betrayal and position you for lasting success. The Mitchell name still means something in Denver's business community. It means integrity, reliability, and the kind of methodical thinking that builds generational wealth. That's a legacy worth protecting, and I'm proud to pass it on to Alexander and Sophia. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.